Welcome to After She Left. Stay till the end, and don't forget to subscribe. The first time I met Mia, she was knee-deep in seaweed and plastic bottles, laughing as she wrestled a fishing net out of the tide. That image stuck with me. Sunburned cheeks, messy ponytail, gloved hands, and that laugh, the kind that made people turn their heads. I was there on a volunteer shift for the coastal cleanup in Santa Barbara, and she was the lead marine biologist giving out instructions. I'm Jeremy, 33 years old, civil engineer based out of San Luis Obispo. I build bridges, literally. And that day, I think I crossed one. She handed me a clipboard without even looking up and said, "You're tall, you get the overhead trash bags." That was our beginning, efficient, direct, and slightly chaotic. I liked her instantly. We talked about sea turtles, plastic decomposition, and eventually over coffee about her work in reef restoration. I told her about my passion project, eco bridges that allowed animals to cross highways safely. She lit up like I had just handed her the ocean in a bottle. We started seeing each other after that. At first, it was casual, weekend hikes, late night Thai food, beach walks, but 3 months in, I found myself watching her in the morning light, tangled in sheets and science journals, and I knew I was done for. She felt like a cause worth fighting for. 3 years passed in a blur of work and passion, for each other, for what we did, for building something real. I saved up for a long time, quietly setting money aside for a wedding I knew I wanted to give her. And when I proposed, right there on a cliff overlooking a marine sanctuary, she said yes before I even finished asking. We got married in a sprawling oceanfront ceremony in Carmel. It was over the top, yes, but I didn't care. She was the kind of woman who'd spent her life cleaning up other people's messes. She deserved something beautiful. Her best friend Tasha was her maid of honor. Influencer, always posting selfies, quotes about living your truth, and vague complaints about people who drain her energy. She never really liked me. Said I worked too much, that I was emotionally unavailable, whatever that meant. During her wedding toast, she slipped in a comment that made my stomach twist. Here's to Mia, who finally found someone to love her, even if he's always at work. People laughed. I didn't. Still, I was riding the high. We left for our honeymoon in the Maldives 2 days after the wedding. 10 days of sand, diving, sunsets, and no distractions. Or so I thought. On the flight home, something shifted. Mia was quieter, scrolling through her phone a lot, smiling at messages she wouldn't show me. When I asked what was funny, she just shrugged. It's nothing. Tasha sent a meme. But I caught a glimpse of a different name on the screen once. Caleb. At the time, it didn't register. We were jet-lagged, maybe a little sun-dazed, but her smile didn't feel like it belonged to me anymore. Still, I told myself it was fine. We were adjusting. It was just the post-honeymoon drop. That's all it was, right? We pulled into our driveway, hand in hand, the wind still carrying the scent of salt water in our hair. But even then, something felt off. She walked through the door and immediately picked up her phone. I stood there, bags in hand, waiting for her to look at me. She didn't. I remember thinking, maybe I'm imagining this. Maybe I'm tired. Maybe not. I had no idea how quickly the cracks would start to show. The first real crack showed up 3 weeks after we got back. I was in my office late, running simulations for a bridge prototype I'd been invited to present at an international environmental summit in Zurich. It was the kind of opportunity I used to dream about in grad school. My name, my design on a global stage. And yet, I barely celebrated. Mia had left earlier that afternoon, saying she was joining a night dive rescue for a beached dolphin near Morro Bay. I believed her. At first, I logged onto Instagram around midnight just to kill a few minutes between rendering loads, and that's when I saw it. One of her coworkers, Jen, I think, had posted a story from a bar in downtown Santa Barbara. Low lighting, clinking glasses, people laughing, and right there in the background, unmistakable. Mia, in a red dress I hadn't seen before, drink in hand, leaning close to someone. A man. I replayed it a dozen times. Tried to tell myself it wasn't her. But it was. I would have recognized that laugh anywhere. The next morning, I asked about the rescue. She yawned, stretched, and said it went fine. Poor thing didn't make it, though, she added, sipping her smoothie like nothing happened. Who was there with you? I asked, watching her closely. She rattled off a list of Marine volunteers I didn't know, then added, "You wouldn't know them, all ocean nerds like me." I didn't mention the video. I should have. But part of me, the same part that wanted to believe we were still on our honeymoon, stayed quiet. Days blurred. I worked longer hours prep pitch, and she was constantly out on rescues or monitoring sea temperature data off Catalina. But the photos kept popping up. Sometimes it was a glass of wine on a restaurant table I didn't recognize. Other times it was a selfie with Tasha and a caption like, "Hearts know where they belong." That phrase stuck with me. Then one night I came home early. I was exhausted. I had a splitting headache and just wanted to lie on the couch with Mia and eat takeout like we used to. Her car was gone. I figured maybe another late rescue shift. But then I heard laughter from upstairs. I paused. It was coming from her phone, left on the kitchen counter, face up, unlocked. A message thread with Caleb. "Caleb, you still think about the beach in Tulum?" Mia. "Only every time I hear the tide. We were different back then." I don't know how long I stood there. My chest felt like it had caved in. When she got home, I confronted her. "You seeing Caleb?" I asked, straight out. Her face didn't change. No shock, no denial, just a long exhale. "Tasha said you might find out eventually." "Tasha?" I felt my stomach turn. "She thinks I owe it to myself to explore what I still feel," she said quietly. Caleb and I had unfinished business. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You're married, Maya. That's the business. That's the commitment." She looked at me, eyes glossy. "I love you, Jeremy. I really do. But what if he's my real soulmate?" I didn't know what to say. My mind went blank. All I could see was that red dress in the bar, her smile, that text. I should have screamed. I should have thrown something. But all I did was nod. "Okay," I said, barely recognizing my own voice. "Then you need to figure that out. Fast." Because suddenly, the perfect life I thought we'd built didn't feel real anymore. It felt like a bridge built on sand. It was 2 days later when Mia finally said it out loud. We were in my office, which used to be the calmest room in the house, stacked with blueprints, renderings, awards I never hung. Now it felt like a war zone. Mia stood in the doorway, arms crossed, still in her wetsuit from field work, while I sat at my desk pretending to study a stress load calculation that made no sense anymore. She cleared her throat. "I've made a decision." I didn't look up. "That right?" I'm going to stay with Caleb, just for a little while." There it was. No hesitation, no remorse. I turned slowly in my chair. "You already packed, didn't you?" She looked away. "Some things, yeah. I didn't want to make a scene." I stared at her, really stared, at the woman I'd married, the one I built a future around. She was still wearing the silver band I placed on her finger 2 months ago. My hands clenched so tight I felt my fingernails in my palms. "This is clarity?" I asked. "Moving in with someone you swore was your past?" "I need space, Jeremy." Her voice had that calm, scripted tone, like she'd practiced it with Tasha in front of a mirror. "I can't breathe here. You're always working. You don't see me anymore." I stood up, keeping my voice level. "No, I saw you. I saw the bar, the dress, the texts. I saw all of it. You just didn't expect me to look." She flinched at that. A tiny shift, but I saw it. "You don't understand," she snapped. "You plan every second of your life, your projects, your savings, even our wedding. And you think that's love? That's control, Jeremy." I walked past her, toward the hallway closet, grabbed her go bag, the one she always kept ready for dive trips. I dropped it at her feet. "Then go," I said. "Go find your clarity." Her mouth opened, maybe to protest, maybe to cry, but nothing came out. I didn't wait. I walked back into the office and sat down. My hands shook as I opened my laptop, not to work, I couldn't think straight, but to search. Top divorce attorneys in San Luis Obispo. That word made it real. Divorce. Not even 90 days since our wedding, and here I was Googling lawyers while she stood in the hallway, stuck between her fantasy and my reality. She stepped back into the room. "So that's it? You're just kicking me out?" I didn't look up. "I'm asking you to choose. Caleb or me. Right now. If you walk out that door, you don't walk back in." She hesitated, hugging the bag against her chest like it might change her mind for her. "You're giving me an ultimatum?" "No," I said flatly. "I'm giving you a mirror." We stood there. Husband and wife, silence and shame, promises and lies, frozen in place. For a second, I saw her waver. I think part of her wanted me to beg, to cry, to fight for her. But I didn't, because if she needed to test our marriage against an old flame, she'd already chosen. She turned, finally, and walked down the hallway. The front door opened, then paused. I didn't move. A second later, it closed behind her, quietly. No goodbye, no apology, just gone. And I sat there in the ruins of the life I built, staring at her empty wedding ring dish on the bookshelf. All I could think was, she really walked out for a maybe. And I let her. I didn't leave the house much after she left. My routine became mechanical: coffee, emails, bridge renderings, court paperwork, bed. The house was quiet in a way that wasn't peaceful. It was just hollow. Her shoes were gone from the rack. Her mug wasn't in the sink. The ghost of a honeymoon still echoed through every room. Then, one Thursday morning, Liam showed up. I hadn't seen him in months. He'd been stationed in Finland overseeing an Arctic bridge installation. Tall, broad, always sarcastic, Liam was the only friend who didn't need small talk. He just walked into my office, looked around, and said, "You look like shit. Nice to see you, too." He didn't ask permission, just grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat on the couch. "I heard." "From who?" "Your mom. She called my mom. Who called me? Who flew across 3 time zones to find out why my best friend isn't picking up his phone?" I leaned back, exhausted. "She left." I figured, but for who? I hesitated. "Her ex, Caleb." Liam stared at me. "You're joking." I shook my head. He let out a low whistle. "And I assumed Tasha had her hands all over that genius idea?" "She lit the match," I said. "Mia struck it." We sat in silence. I didn't need to say more. Liam already understood the rest. That's the thing about old friends. They speak fluent history. "I called a lawyer," I finally said. "Good," he said, "because this isn't salvageable." Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, I froze. Jack, Mia's dad, former Coast Guard captain, the kind of man who wore a Navy windbreaker even in the summer. He stood on my porch like a storm cloud, hands in his pockets, jaw set. "Can I come in?" I nodded slowly. "Sure." He walked in, glanced around, took in the missing photos, the boxed up trinkets from the wedding. Then he said, "I heard she left." "Yeah? For Caleb?" I nodded. He sighed. "I always knew that boy was a snake. Even when she was 19, I knew. But you can't tell a daughter that. Not when her eyes are full of fairy dust." I didn't say anything. Jack looked at me. "She told me you kicked her out." "I asked her to choose. She did." He nodded, almost approvingly. "Good. You were too decent to do anything less." I poured him a glass of water. He didn't touch it. "I want you to know something," he said. "That boy she left for? He cheated on her in college, slept with her roommate while she was at her grandma's funeral. She never told you that, did she?" My jaw tightened. "No. She forgave him, thought he was young and stupid." He shook his head. "But some men don't grow up. They just get sneakier." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I want you to know you're not crazy. You were the good one, Jeremy. You gave her more stability than she ever had growing up, and she spit on it." That hit hard. I looked down, suddenly unsure of how to respond. Jack stood. "I'm not here to take sides, but I'm not covering for her either. She screwed up, and you don't deserve to be the one cleaning up the mess." I followed him to the door. Before he left, he turned back. "If you need help with the legal side of things, let me know. I've got connections in Monterey." I nodded. "Thanks, Jack. Really." After he left, I sat down and exhaled for the first time in weeks. Jack, Liam, even silence itself. They all confirmed what I'd tried so hard not to admit. She wasn't coming back, and I wasn't waiting anymore. The Monday after Jack visited, I filed the divorce papers. It felt like signing off a failed blueprint. Lines that looked beautiful on paper but cracked under pressure. Still, there was clarity in the process. A strange calm in knowing the next step. I took 2 weeks off work after that. Liam said it was the first good decision I'd made in months. The house stayed quiet but not heavy anymore. I started waking up early again, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I dusted off a half-finished scale model of the Zurich project and spread it across the kitchen table. The same one Mia used to cover with sea charts and coral samples. I thought it would hurt to see the table like that. It didn't. Zurich was 3 months away, and the design had stalled before all the chaos. But now, with no distractions, my mind locked in. One morning, while reworking the support distribution for the wildlife corridor, I saw the flaw that had been bothering me for weeks. A tension load imbalance in the southern span, something small but expensive. I corrected it. Then I reran the calculations. The design saved the city an estimated $42 million in long-term maintenance costs. When I showed my boss, he whistled so loud it startled the intern. A week later, they offered me a promotion. lead environmental engineer on our next international contract. Stockholm, of all places. I didn't even hesitate. Yes, I said. I'll do it. The offer felt like validation, not just of my work, but of the version of me that had existed long before Mia, the driven, focused man who built bridges for a living and didn't need to ask permission to cross them. But even as things turned around for me, I heard the rumors about how they were falling apart for her. First, it was a photo on Tasha's Instagram, just her and Caleb clinking wine glasses with the caption, "Old flames burn brighter." Mia wasn't even tagged. Then came the whispers from one of Mia's coworkers who'd been looped into the divorce documentation I filed. Apparently, Caleb had started working late again. Tasha, oddly, was always there too. It didn't take long. The final proof came in the form of a forwarded email from a mutual friend. Subject line, "So, this happened." Attached was a screenshot. Caleb and Tasha tagged together at a weekend retreat in Big Sur, holding hands, wearing matching wellness hoodies. Mia wasn't in any of the photos. She'd made her choice, and now she was watching it unravel. Still, I didn't reach out. I didn't need to. Some bridges burned themselves. One night, while reviewing a materials quote for Stockholm, I got a message on LinkedIn. A headhunter from an international architecture firm in Copenhagen had seen the Zurich pitch online and was interested in my work. They were offering full creative control on a project to design a sustainable transit corridor in Norway. It was ambitious, high profile, and just crazy enough to excite me. "You're going to take it, aren't you?" Liam said when I told him. I nodded. "I think I already have." That night, I packed up the rest of Mia's things. Everything she left behind. Books, dive gear, a faded sweatshirt from our honeymoon. I boxed it all neatly, set it by the door, and emailed her a pickup time. No anger, no drama, just closure. The next morning, I booked my flight to Norway. As I clicked confirm, I felt something settle deep inside me. Not relief, not revenge, just freedom. I never expected my farewell party to feel like a victory lap, but that's exactly what it was. The team had rented out the rooftop of our downtown office building. String lights, catered sliders, music low enough for conversation, but loud enough to drown out the weight of goodbyes. I stood near the railing, drink in hand, looking out over San Luis Obispo. The mountains in the distance glowed orange under the setting sun, like the city itself was waving me off. Colleagues clapped me on the back, joked about freezing in Norway, and tried to wrangle last-minute advice about bridge modeling before I left the country. For the first time in a long time, I was surrounded by people who respected me, not because I could provide or fix their mess, but because I earned it. And then Mia showed up. She wasn't on the guest list. She didn't RSVP. She just appeared. Security caught her at the elevator. I saw them first. 2 guards, confused but polite, standing beside a woman in a pale blue dress. Her hair was curled like it had been the night we met. The same sandals from our first date, the same nervous smile. It took me a second to understand what I was looking at. She dressed up as nostalgia. One of the guards approached me. "Mr. Wallace?" "She says she knows you." I didn't answer right away. Mia caught my eyes across the rooftop. She lifted something from her purse, a small black scrapbook. Of course. I gave the guard a slight shake of my hand on the list. He nodded. "Got it." Mia stepped forward anyway, trying to get past them. "Jeremy," she called. "Please, just a minute." A few coworkers turned to look. I could feel the mood shift, the music keep playing like it was trying to ignore what was unfolding. Tasha wasn't with her. Neither was Caleb. That part didn't surprise me. One of the guards gently stepped between them. "Ma'am, we're going to have to ask you to leave." "I'm his wife," she said quickly, voice pitching higher. "We were married. I just want to give him something." She lifted the scrapbook again like it was a peace treaty. "It's our story," she said, "desperate now. Our photos, our vows, everything we built." I didn't move. "Mia," I said finally, "you burned that story. You handed it to someone else and hoped I'd still keep reading." "But it was a mistake," she shouted. "He's gone. Tasha and Caleb, it was nothing. He used me. They both did." The rooftop fell dead quiet. Someone in the back muttered, "Jesus." "I don't care," I said calmly, stepping closer. "You left, Mia. You gambled our future on a fantasy, and now that it collapsed, you think I should offer you comfort?" Her hands trembled. "I thought you'd understand. I didn't mean to lose everything." "You didn't lose everything," I said. "You gave it away." She stood there, red-faced, breathing hard. "You're really going to walk away from me?" "I already did," I said. "The night you chose him." I turned back toward the crowd. Security guided her gently into the elevator, still holding the scrapbook like a bomb that never went off. A few people clapped awkwardly. Someone raised their glass. Someone else muttered, "What a mess." I took a sip of my drink and looked out over the skyline again. My heart didn't hurt. My throat didn't tighten. I just felt done. Later, Liam came over and clinked his beer against mine. "So, that chapter's officially closed." "Wasn't much of a chapter," I said. "More like a footnote." "Still," he said, "not a bad ending." I looked out at the horizon, at what was coming, not what had passed. Not bad at all. It was still dark when I pulled into the airport lot, the sky just starting to bleed gray at the edges. I left the engine running for a moment, taking in the silence. My entire life fit neatly into 2 suitcases and a carry-on. One held clothes, the other, blueprints, models, and a half-finished sketch of a Norwegian bridge I hadn't stopped thinking about since Zurich. The departure board inside blinked steadily. Oslo, 7:10 a.m., on time. I checked in, passed through security, and found my gate with 2 hours to spare. No fanfare, no last-minute doubts, just the rhythmic roll of wheels behind me and the comforting weight of a fresh passport in my back pocket. I sat near the window, coffee in hand, watching the first orange threads of sun stretch across the tarmac. And then I heard her. "Jeremy?" I turned slowly, already knowing who it was. Mia. She looked rushed, disheveled, the same sweatshirt from our honeymoon in the Maldives thrown over what I assumed was last night's clothes. Her eyes were wide, red-rimmed, like she hadn't slept. Her voice cracked as she stepped closer. "I didn't know it was today." "Today?" "Jack told me. He said you were really going." I nodded. "I am." She moved closer, lowering her voice. "I thought maybe we could talk, just for a second." Before I could answer, another voice broke in. "No, Mia, you can't keep doing this." "Jack." He appeared from behind her, arms folded, jaw tight. "You need to stop embarrassing yourself, and him." Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue, but the words didn't come. Jack looked at me. "You good?" "Yeah," I said. "I'm good." Mia's voice was barely a whisper. "You don't have to go." I looked her dead in the eyes. "I'm not leaving because of what you did. I'm leaving because of what I have ahead of me. That future was never going to be with you." She didn't try to follow as I turned toward the gate. I boarded early, slipped into my aisle seat, and let out the breath I didn't realize I'd been holding for months. A few minutes later, a woman slid into the window seat beside me. Late 30s, smart blazer, architectural sketches spilling out of her tote. "You're Jeremy, right?" she said, smiling. "Sophia. I'll be leading the Oslo project. Thought I'd introduce myself before we hit the clouds." "Nice to meet you," I said, shaking her hand. "Looking forward to it." The plane rolled onto the runway. Engines roared. As we lifted into the sky, I looked out the window. California faded beneath us, and just like that, I was free.